All right, today we're gabbing with Peppermint and Frankie Grande, who just published an open letter calling for a reality check on LGBTQ representation on reality TV in partnership with GLAAD. I love this cause and I'm very excited to get into it with both of you. Frankie and Peppermint, thanks for being here. How are you?
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for having us. I'm doing
We
great.
are
I'm doing
so
gay and
stoked.
sparkly. We're stoked.
Yes.
Pep and I are like have been working on this for so long. It's like it's so exciting that we're finally able to like come and talk to people about it, and it's been a cause that's near and dear to our hearts. So I'm
Yeah.
stoked. Yeah, very excited.
It's been at least a year in the making, and
Oh,
we,
really?
Hmm.
it was a ch chance sort of conversation because we had both been last year we had both come back recently from filming some reality
Hmm.
competition shows, and we were just kind of dishing the tea, but like unloading a little bit,
Hmm.
and we both shared a lot of the same feelings and frustrations. While I think we're both very grateful for what reality competition has and reality television in general has, uh, contributed and given to both of us,
Hmm.
it was, we had a quite a conversation.
I'm
Yes,
sure. I'm sure.
we did.
And yeah, and so it really came from you two together, this whole idea. This was that's amazing. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was great because I looked at the composition of the board at GLAAD and I was like looking at this and like me
Hmm.
and Peppermint are just such prime examples of LGBTQ plus success on reality TV, but for representation, but also like it was just we were talking about it and I was like, wow, it's also such a flawed system still. Like it is,
Yeah.
we are the exceptions to the rule that we were able to break through in the ways that we did. And I think, it's just interesting because I went back to Big Brother with a 10-year gap in between. And it was just so interesting having played the show twice and still been the only LGBTQ plus member
Yeah.
both times, all three times actually, if you can count celebrity in Canada. I mean, celebrity in Canada, celebrity in the UK as well. Again, the only LGBTQ plus member in the house. And it's just like, wow, I've played three times over 10 years and the formula is exactly the same. And I think it's broken now.
Yeah, and it's almost been like a forgotten about aspect of getting with the times, basically, and
Mhm.
representation mattering. And so I feel like I just want to read like the what I feel like is almost like the thesis of the letter. You
Hmm.
say, while we've made impressive strides in LGBTQ visibility over the decades, the fact remains that for far too long now, reality shows too often include just one
Mhm.
LGBTQ storyline or depend on a single LGBTQ cast member to represent an entire community of individuals and experiences.
Mhm.
So obviously, I'm guessing towards the beginning of both your reality TV careers, you sort of noticed that. When did you notice it? So for you, Frankie, it was when you went on Big Brother again and you didn't notice any change. Peppermint, when did you notice that it being, you need to address it?
I mean, I'm certainly my own experiences informed this,
Yeah.
because there's so much about reality television in general that I would say 90% of whatever goes on with reality TV is either the opposite or at least not shown
Got it.
to everybody. Um, I think I realized in terms of like the disparity in, LGBTQ people versus non. I mean, I remember the moment like celebrate. I remember being overjoyed and celebrated seeing one queer person, one gay person on a TV show and feeling like, well, we won the world, right?
Right.
That's finally
Right.
it.
Right.
And I remember having that feeling, and then I would have that feeling again if I would see another one, and then I would have the same feeling again, and then 30 years later, because I had that feeling back in 1992.
Mhm.
So 30 something years later, we're
Yeah.
still with the same model, as Frankie mentioned. It hasn't
Uh-huh.
changed. It's the same one of them on maybe, I mean, we're just to the point now where they will sometimes put more than one person of color
Right.
on
Mhm.
the thing, you know? And so we haven't gone very far. And, that was, I don't have that much experience with reality TV as a contestant. Certainly not more than as a viewer. I watch plenty of it. But
But that's the point.
the,
Yeah.
yeah, hello.
Exactly.
And so lies the point. Like we are the viewers.
Exactly.
Hmm.
We
Yeah.
are the viewers. There it is. And so when I went and filmed, I mean, obviously doing Drag Race was very different because that was very specific. Everybody was, it was
Yeah.
like it was a
Everybody
different kind
was
of thing.
queer of some sort, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
But doing doing Traitors, which is, a very mainstream show. Not that Drag Race isn't mainstream, but like from the get, Drag Race is something that I think it started niche and felt more sort of like underground, and then obviously became like a
Yeah,
juggernaut.
exactly.
Now, but the Traitors is something that was meant specifically for like the
The
basic
masses.
audience,
Yes.
The basic
Yeah.
the
audience.
basics.
Okay, okay.
And, and so I knew it was a great opportunity. And I'd even had these conversations with producers. Like, this is a really good opportunity. This is not the normal drag race crowd. If
Yeah.
No.
anything, the drag race audience will be able to be introduced to something. And that's true. When Bob was, the drag queen was on this season, there's so many people that I was watching and saying, oh, I watched for the first time. I didn't watch before, even though the show had been on as in America beforehand and internationally for a few seasons. And so, yes, putting a drag race contestant on will bring drag race viewers. They know that. That's why they do that.
Hmm.
But, you know, I didn't realize just how cutthroat it was. Because on Drag Race, we're all working towards the same thing, and we're all sisters. Like, yes, you might have a better performance than me, but like, oh, your corset isn't good. I'll help you zip it. Like there's that camaraderie, and I was foolishly expecting that something like that could happen behind the scenes at the Traitors, and it didn't. And so that's when I realized, oh, this is tough. I'm the only one here. I feel like an outsider. Oh, there's five people from this show, five people from that show. Oh, I'm going to go try to talk to them. Oh, no, they're already talking to each other. So I guess I'll just sit here alone. And that was
Right.
my
And
experience.
it's
Yeah.
one thing to feel that isolation and but then it affects your gameplay. It affects your time on it affects how you're able to even do on the show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
We're
like,
instantly.
right.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's interesting because when I did Big Brother this most recent time, before I went in, there was someone who came in to speak to me about DE and I, and we're talking about how in reality TV, when you walk into a room, you look for mirrors. You look for people that look like
Mm,
you, that are part of your community to immediately glob onto because that's an instant alliance. That's something that
Yeah.
you can absolutely go
mm-hmm,
to. And he was speaking to it
mm-hmm.
from a place of people of color. And I ended up being on a show with about 5 or 6 people of color. And I said to him, I was like, have you ever thought about this as it applies to the LGBTQ plus community? And he was like, no.
Really.
And I was like, yes,
A
because I
DE&I
guarantee.
person didn't think like,
Did not. No, he did not. And I said to him, I said, because I guarantee you, when I walk into this house, I'm going to be the only person in my community. This is before I walked into the house. And I was like, you don't have to confirm that or not. I'm telling you, that's how it's going to go.
Hmm.
And he was like, wow, I will bring that, forward to the producers. But like, even me just saying it to this person who was hired to help, explain to me DE and I, as it came to reality TV casting, was flabbergasted when I said, do you know this applies to me?
Hmm.
And he was like, wow. He was like, got me there.
And do you have any idea of why that hasn't been thought about? Why that isn't something that crosses people's minds on from behind the scenes that are making these decisions?
Yeah, I mean, I think again, there is something to do with maybe the potential of hooking up or the potential of love happening on TV. I think, Julie Chen loves to say that
mm,
Big
Yeah.
Brother has made more lasting marriages
Interesting.
than The Bachelor or The Bachelorette, which is true.
That's a
But
crazy
hmm.
why
stat.
not allow it to be a gay marriage? You know what I'm saying? Like, why not? Because they very specifically source single people looking for love for the show.
Hmm.
And they say, what's your type? And then they try to put that type in the house with you.
Because they want
But
the hookups.
they want the hookups, but they don't want gay hookups. Um, I think that's a lot for the audience. Even me and Zach cuddling, like we were completely platonic on the show.
Hmm.
But I think it was a lot for some viewers. But I also think it broke boundaries. And I
Well,
think it
I
changed viewers' hearts and minds. So we got to just fucking do it.
Yeah, well, because I think it's a kind of a double-edged sword. It's like it was probably a lot for a lot of viewers, but also I think people glommed onto that idea of you guys being a
Yes.
quote-unquote showmance, even though you
That
weren't
was 10
technically a
years
showmance.
ago.
Right. So, but I think that's a really accurate assessment of why of because I think about, for example, on Bravo, there's a show called Summer House. The first two seasons had one gay guy, and he's no lo- they haven't had an openly LGBTQ person since then. And it's this back and forth in my mind of like, I would love to see another queer person on that show, but also one, you risk being having the tokenization again of one person, and two, you're also like, is this environment even like for queer people? You know what I mean? It's
Right.
like it's this weird thing. I don't know. I think about a lot of different shows in that way because it's as a gay person, I want to see that, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't
And it's
know.
fun, and it's like interesting, like for Peppermint's point earlier, like I had to code switch when I walked into Big Brother. Like I looked at the people that I'm playing with and I immediately bro out. Like I'm immediately
Hmm.
like, yeah, dude, what's up, brah? Let's go, brah. Let's go. Let's do this competition, brah. But it worked. I mean, that's how I have to play the game to get to the end. Like I have to because I don't see anyone like me.
Right. And it's a
So
social
I'm
game.
the silly gay person, which
Hmm.
makes people think that I'm not as good at competitions. And then
Hmm. Hmm.
when I'm kicking everyone's ass, I bro out, and I'm like,
Mm.
guys, we got to stick together, big strong dogs to the end, you know. So like, it is a
Right.
more of a mental game for us in the LGBTQ plus community because we're
Totally.
100%.
constantly trying to figure out how to relate to people that don't look like us, don't sound like us, aren't part of our everyday circle.
Right. And
And we end
Peppermint.
up having to cater to
Hmm.
like this power dynamic. And honestly, I do think that folks fall back on what their normal thing is. If some gay person walks in and you have people of all walks of life, maybe half of them aren't used to seeing a gay person or a queer person or a trans person, certainly not a trans
Hmm.
person. We already know
Sure.
that.
Yeah.
Then they're going to probably react the way that they usually react whenever they see a trans person. And just
Hmm.
judging by America's reactions right now, it's not very good.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
And Peppermint, when you hear how Frankie talks about it from his experience in Big Brother, and you think about your time on Traitors, like, I mean, it was very controversial. You're the first person banished after Trishelle accused of being, quote, dramatic, and that was her evidence, quote unquote, against you. Do you like when you were having that experience in the moment, were you like, oh fuck, like I shouldn't have been as much myself as I was, or like, because it's sort of like, you know what I mean? Because it's I don't know. What did you consider at all when you were going through that?
I feel like I was blindsided because, we spent a lot of time, without giving up too much of the process of the
Yeah,
show. The episode took a lot longer to film than it looks
I'm
like it
sure.
did.
Yeah,
Even though that was one of the first conversations I had in the house. And I didn't mind that as much. I kind of just thought that was nothing. She did make more of it than I was kind of like, what? You're talking about that? But what was even more interesting is how much she was really interested in sort of spinning a tale and really campaigning kind of to get everybody to see it from her side. And it wasn't so much this reaction. That's not what it was. It's that she told people that I stormed off and like pushed her away when she was trying
mm,
to apologize to me. And that never happened. But that was what convinced everybody else. That didn't make it into the show either.
uh-huh.
There was so her story was two pieces. First, Peppermint reacted dramatically, and then when I went up to her to apologize, she pushed me. That is what
That's
the people in the house. That's what convinced the people in the house
Mm.
that
mm,
or whatever that I was like whatever
right,
it was. So it
That
felt
you were
more than it
other.
felt like yeah they felt like they were defending her against my aggression,
Yeah.
right, which is
not
so loaded.
that they thought
Exactly.
I was actually a traitor, if
And
that
the
makes any sense.
problem
Yeah, 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 it does.
where the formula is dangerous in a show like Traitors, which is all about finding the other, right? Like, is
Hmm.
that like if you are already othered
Mm,
by being of a community that no one has, you have no one else in the house that is of your community, and also like many of the people in the house are unfamiliar with your community, you're othered. Like you're othered from day
absolutely.
one, from second one. The formula is broken. You're going home first. You know?
Absolutely. Yeah, and in
There
the
it is.
in the corresponding video for your guys' letter, you talk about sort of the archetypes and the formulas that sort of fuel reality TV. It comes into casting, it comes into how they edit the shows because it gives viewers something quote unquote familiar to latch onto. It's,
Hmm.
people play into these archetypes.
Mhm.
Yep.
How do we how do you push past that? Is it in really, to me, a lot of this comes back to casting.
Yes.
Obviously, editing's a big part of it too, but like the casting to me is obviously forefront. So if you have more queer people in the cast in situations like this, how does that change how they net out?
How does it change how they net out?
Like
Meaning
or
like,
like how the experiences of queer people in these shows net out and sort of
well, I just did
set them up for success.
Worst Cooks in America Celebrity Edition, and I walked into the kitchen, and on a team was me, Trinity the Tuck, and Adam Rippon. And I have to tell you, I've never had so much fun
Uh,
and so much queer joy doing a competition show in my whole fucking life. And it just naturally happened. It just happened. You put three flaming homosexuals together, and we just were like, and we called ourselves the Gay Agenda. And you watched it at home and you were like, wow, those gay guys are having the best fucking time. And I think that that's all you really need to do. I mean, there
mhm.
is, I guess, a formula to it where it's like, is this guy single? Is he not single? Is he approachable? Is he not approachable? Like all of those different characteristics. But just showing community interactions will familiarize us to an audience that can be like, oh wow, they are kind of just like us. Even when we're fighting. Like I'm not saying it has to be kumbaya. Like I might go for another gay guy's throat. You know what I'm saying? Peppermint and I might be snatching each other's weaves and throwing them across the fucking room. But the point is, like, it familiarizes our community to people who are like, actually, I fight like that with my sister. Like,
Mhm.
holy
Hmm.
shit, they're just like
Mhm.
us. So I
Mhm.
just think it's including more people. It doesn't have to be a thought way beyond that. It's just like having like maybe four. You imagine like four LGBTQ plus people in one house of Big Brother of 16? That'd be
Right.
sick.
Right. Well, even on the Traitors this season, Peppermint, we had
Yes.
more people, and like I
Yep.
think about like, I mean, we had Chriselle and Gabby in an alliance together. They're both women who like were actually introduced to America as they identified as straight when we first got to know them, and now they are both queer, and like they were in an alliance together. There was something a little bit like revolution, not revolutionary.
Yes.
That's a big word, but like it
I
felt
mean,
cool to
it
see
shouldn't
that.
be,
But
yeah,
it
it
felt
shouldn't be
cool to
so
see it.
revolutionary. But my thinking is past the casting. I mean, I wasn't even at that point of like, who can I have an alliance with? My thinking was, if they say you only have 2 minutes to change into your bathing suits, and I'm the only one who has to tuck,
Hmm.
Yeah.
then
That's crazy.
am
Like
I
that
going to
is,
lose?
come
So
on.
Right.
I'm thinking in
Right.
the production, like what
Mm.
do it what happens if every no none of the ladies want to get their hair wet, but if I jump in and I lose my hair, what does that say to America about who I really am?
Hmm.
Right.
In a country where they're in Texas,
Hmm.
they're making it a felony to be trans on the grounds of being fraudulent.
Hmm.
What does it
Mm.
say if my
Right.
gender changes before your eyes
Right.
according to them? Do you know what I mean? And so that's where I
Yeah, of
was.
course.
And
Of
I said I
course.
didn't want to be the only trans person on the set. And I said, I know you can't tell me who the other cast members are, but maybe we could have one other trans person
Yes.
on the set to defend me off camera, from off
Totally.
camera, to
Hmm.
say, actually, this is actually not a moment that will work well for everyone in the cast.
Hmm.
Could we think of a different way to do this that doesn't isn't harmful to trans people?
Right.
You know,
Right.
and to their credit, like they did have someone
Oh,
who is
good.
trans come to the set, and that was great. You
And you
know,
felt and you feel like that
um,
person advocated for you based on their own lived experience, which is amazing.
Well,
That's
it's very
that's
intimidating when
amazing.
you're on a reality TV competition show to advocate for yourself. It's
Right.
scary because you're like, are the producers gonna like get me out sooner? Are they gonna do something? Are they gonna do that, or the other? So it is beautiful that they actually brought somebody to advocate for you because it's very hard to advocate for yourself in a situation like that.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's scary.
Another thing that I loved about the letter is that it talks obviously about what we all know, which is representation matters. But I
Hmm.
also liked that it talked about kind of how seeing queer people on these shows creates familiarity with people who might not otherwise be exposed to a trans person or a queer person, or that to me is sort of the next level that people don't really think about all the time. You know what I mean? Because we all know that. I mean, a lot of us know that representation matters, and it still does. But like that is the next level to me that I'm glad you two mentioned in your letter. Can you talk a
mhm.
little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think again, like as a kid, getting to not see many queer people on reality TV, it's just important. as we go into these next 4 years where we are so,
Hmm.
our community is being so villainized and so attacked, that you get to see us just being normal people on television, like just getting to interact in Kiki and Kai Kai. And it's like we are going backwards. So this is a really good time for this letter to be out in the world, because I do feel like reality TV is speaking to those people, like to the people
Hmm.
on the fence. I have fans who are Trump supporters. Like I know that, because I've met them and they're Trump supporters and they love me and they love what I did on Big Brother. So it's just that simple of having more people like us on TV to have those experiences, and also showing us as a community relate to each other. That's the big piece that I think that people aren't, like, they're like, what do you mean? There's plenty of people on gay people on reality TV. Sure. But do we get to see community on these shows? Because that's
Right.
really the way to change hearts and minds, really to
Right.
show
And
how we take care of each other.
I also think it also shows people how to treat us and not treat us.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think one of the what did we see? If it's not even a reality competition show, if you think of a gay person that's the lone gay on the show, they're usually somebody's hairdresser or somebody's gay best friend that's
Yeah.
like in service to
Right.
Housewives.
everyone else.
Yeah.
Right.
No one is in service of them. No one is wondering about their needs. No one is taking care of them or checking in on them. And so that's what America learns about who queer people are. And
Wow.
then what's beyond that, I mean, I would like to think of shows like, Jerry Springer as sort of reality TV shows.
Yeah.
In terms of the trans community, a lot of times the first time a person saw, for many people, their first introduction to trans people was through shows like The Jerry Springer Show,
Right.
where a trans person, usually a trans woman, would get on stage and profess her love for someone who would turn around and hit her upside the head with a chair.
Mm-hmm.
So they're learning how to treat that is appropriate response,
Right.
violence. I can't separate the fact that the trans community is falling victim to a lopsided rate of violence and murder right now, not to be so dark, but like that is it's a very real thing. People, we can connect how
100%.
people treat us from what they see about us, given that most people don't know trans people and a lot of people probably know somebody who's queer at this point, but like they learn how to interact with us based on what they see on TV.
Hmm.
Yep.
Hmm.
Amen. God, I love you, Peppermint. Fuck.
100%. But that ties in your experience on the Traitors very well, especially hearing more to the story that you just shared. Like that's emblematic of it 100%. And so I'm really glad that you mentioned that. Um, I also I guess going off of that is like you talked about sort of the gay character always sort of being the sidekick or the hairdresser or what have you.
Mhm.
The sort of next level up from that is like, okay, maybe they're more of a main character, but their primary storyline is just like their coming out story or like, anything like that. We don't really get to know them beyond that. The first confessional breakthrough moment is always like, all right,
Trauma.
when you told your parents, and it's always through tears, and
Hmm.
that's always how we get to know the gay person or the queer person on any of these shows. And it's like I love hearing those stories because they are relatable for us. But I want to take two, three, four steps beyond that with these people. And I guess it gets into like how long people last on the shows. But it's that to me is a frustration because we're more than our coming out stories and our trauma, like you said, Frankie. You know?
Yes, exactly. And I do also think that like you can cast people that will be good at the things that the show wants. You know what I'm saying? Like I
Yeah.
think even in reality TV, like they know who's going to go home in what order. Like not really, not actually. Like I will tell you, there's no producer involvement in Big Brother. But like I think when they're casting it, they're like, okay, this person's good at puzzles. This person's not. This person's strong. This person has endurance. So like they can kind of tell just based on who you are how far you're going to go in the show. So cast queer people that you think can get to the end. That's
Hmm.
also that is part of the thing, like let's be like, wow, this guy is really well-rounded and happens to be a flaming homosexual. Let's throw him in there.
Right.
With some other one, with another one, and they're both single. That's crazy. What could happen? Would they kiss in the shower? Ah! You know who does it? You know
Kiss
who
in that
does it?
shower, honey.
Yeah, you know who does it
We
great
love to see
is
it.
the challenge. The challenge does it great.
Mm.
Like it is, there's so many queer people on that show, and they're hooking up, and it doesn't matter, and they're fun, and they support each other, and they don't, and they fight, and it's great. There's always 40 people on the show,
Right.
So it helps,
There's more,
you know.
yeah. I feel like
There's,
Survivor also does a fairly good job of being a little bit more representative in a variety of ways, but I feel like they
we're
big ca again another big cast, but
big cast is helpful for sure.
yes,
And the problem
right.
with Survivor is that they're always separated. You know what I'm saying? By the time you get to the merge, you're down to 10. So it's
Hmm.
like very hard to figure out whether or not those two gay like it doesn't necessarily mean there will be community. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right. Totally.
Because
You lose that
there's
element.
five, five, and five, and so if there's one gay on here and one gay on here and one gay on here, then they don't get to interact. But
Yeah.
anyway, yes, the more the merrier. The point of like, please, we'll take anything we can get, is what I'm saying.
Right.
And there are some shows that are doing it right, like The Challenge. I think The Challenge is doing it right.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So I think that it's just like, getting those other big tent poles
Sure.
shows to make this commitment and know why they're doing it. I think that's the thing. Like, I think that's really the big part of this letter is like, I don't think anyone ever, like that meeting that I had with Big Brother just sticks in my head. Like, I don't think people understood that there was a problem. And I think that
Totally.
we just want them to understand that there is a problem. Like, yes, we're glad that you addressed, and Big Brother at least, that you were glad that there's now an equal ratio of people of color to white people. Like, that is phenomenal. But there is still
Hmm.
another problem that needs to be addressed. And I think that everyone across the board just needs to be aware of it. And now we have, Peppermint and I, along with GLAAD, made sure that they can't say we didn't know that was happening.
Right.
Now they know this is happening, so now they have to do something. Period.
Hmm.
And just be intentional.
Yeah,
Like, just be
absolutely.
intentional when it comes to our community. That's all the two of us are begging for. I
And
think
I
it's
think it's not even necessarily that we need something. Of course, we would like this, but I wholeheartedly believe that the other people, certainly the viewers, but even the other people in the house, in the room, in the show or whatever,
island.
they will benefit on the island. They will benefit
Yes.
from having relationships with queer people. Like it's
Mm,
not just so much like, oh,
Definitely.
we're poor queer people, just do something for them so they'll shut up. It is like
We're
their lives
additive.
could be enriched
Yeah,
by a
exactly.
relationship,
yes.
an interaction, a connection with someone who is out and queer and who has gone through the type of adversity that queer people have to go through these days, or that many queer people do go through these days.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
became best friends with Caleb Reynolds, who is a staunch Trumper, and he is on was on that show, and he was like, a country boy, and he's just like, "Wow, Frankie," and he's like, "I didn't ever think I'd be cuddling in bed with somebody like Frankie, but I did, and we're friends." And it's like, yes, yes, that's
Yeah,
it. Like, expose
exactly.
like Caleb forever. Like, we'll be like, I know a gay guy, and he's pretty great.
And I'm sure there's a lot of people watching who were
Relate to
affected by
him.
that. Yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. So a little bit of a different idea, but I'm curious as somebody who watches a lot of Bravo, a lot of like the sort of docu-soap reality shows,
Mm.
not the competition ones. There
Hmm.
have been sort of attempts to have
Mhm.
queer, gay, LGBTQ,
Versions.
yes, exclusively
Mhm.
with casts full of just queer people. But none of them have
Hmm.
lasted. None of them have really gone the distance. They either last for a couple seasons, one season, or like they're kind of shunned before they even get to air. Honestly, I'm thinking about that MTV show from a couple years. Why do you two
Hmm.
think that is? Like what's not being unlocked for a success to happen there?
That's going to the extreme opposite. Like, we don't want to go from like one queer person to 30. Like, we just want to exist within a group of varying types of people, but in a way that makes us feel represented. I think that that's the problem. I think like I don't I think it's too extreme, honestly, because you still
Hmm.
want to get those middle American people to watch the show. And if there's 20 queer people on the show, that's it. They're not going to watch. They don't
Mm,
care. It's still about eyes.
Yeah,
It's
I
still
mean
about
that's
viewership.
just yeah, I think it's one thing to be like, here, just give something for the gay people, but I think it's the difference between the significance of having, a network like BET, for example, that, I mean, I watched a lot of BET shows, but I don't know how many white folks watched it, you
Mhm.
right.
know, versus having us come into the living room, us queer
Yes.
people, people of color, people with different abilities, disabled people
Yep.
coming into their living room on a show that they are already watching. And so the way to do that is to mix us into the
Yes.
fabric of what they're already consuming, not
Hmm.
trying to convince them to go and watch something on Logo. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I feel like eventually, hopefully, I mean, I think this is the first. thing that we can do. But the next frontier, I hope, is a show like that for us to, even if it is just for the millions and millions of queer people in this country to watch, and even if it's just us, I hope that we eventually get
Yeah,
that.
we need a gay Love is Blind. Like, why the fuck not?
Or even just like without the dating, just or without the sort of structure. Just like I just want to watch people
Yeah, why
live.
can't it just be people there? Maybe
Like why can't we just follow people in Hell's Kitchen and just call it a day? You know what I mean?
But
yeah.
also gay Love is Blind, you know?
Yeah, no, for
I
sure,
mean,
for
oh
sure.
yeah.
I'll take it all. I'm not that.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Queer Love is
Um,
Blind.
to wrap it up here, I mean, you guys, you put this letter out, and you have some incredible names that signed this letter that really have gotten behind this effort. Alan Cumming, Phaedra Parks, Meredith Marks,
Mhm.
T.S. Madison, Bob the Drag Queen, Elliot Page, Chriselle Staus. A lot of heavyweights in this genre have gotten
Mhm.
behind this publicly. Like you said, this is out there. It's pretty unmissable now. That must feel pretty good. That must feel like you have already honestly done part of the job, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. I guess
Yeah.
we'll see what the response is. And that'll warm my heart to see that the message has been received.
Hmm.
I'm happy that we sent such a beautiful message, and it does speak a lot to me. I was hesitant to reach out to a couple of the people that we were, talking to, and because I wasn't sure, you never know who's going to be receptive to this type of message or not. And
Totally.
it is great to see so many people supporting it. And next would be, the people who this is addressed to.
Mhm.
Hopefully they respond in kind.
Yeah. Amen.
Hopefully.
Well said.
And I know that just to end it on here, I know that people can sign the petition themselves. There's a way for viewers to
Hmm.
also make their voice heard in this. How can people do that? Because I already did that before we started our conversation. But how can people listening to this or watching this get
It's easy.
involved?
They can go to glad.org, sorry, /reality and
Sign. Sign.
sign the
Put your
letter.
name on there.
Type your
Yep.
name. Exactly. I think it really is about the viewers. I think that's the only way that this is going to change is if they understand that this is what their viewership
What they
really would
want.
like to see.
Hmm.
Right.
So please sign away if you are
Amazing.
someone who loves reality TV and wants to see more of our community shown there. I think that's the biggest way to make a change is
And
to
I'm,
hit them
yeah.
where their eyeballs are.
And listen, this is exclusively a show pretty much about reality TV. So people listening to this, I know they're interested. So I really appreciate you two coming on here. Thanks for all the work you're doing. It means a lot to have you both doing this, and hopefully we see some change.
Yeah. I want to
Yeah.
do a show with you, Pep. Let's go.
Honey, we gotta,
Oh,
I
I'd
can't
watch.
wait for
So
that moment.
Next season of Amazing Race. Thank you.
Yes!
Hello.
Talk
All
about
right.
community. Let's go.
Bye, you guys. I want to gab.